Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. And we got a great prediction video for all of you guys. It is the MLB playoff predictions. We did it with NFL last winter. We've done it with March Madness for years and years, Bull Mania, and we're out here doing it with MLB now. So we're excited to do it and bring you guys this MLB playoff predictions before it starts on Friday.
Let's do it, man. Super excited for the MLB playoffs. Sadly, our Giants are not in it. It makes the MLB playoffs a little bit worse, but Giants went 81 and 81. That's not a losing record, so
Yeah, 500.
most about that. And yeah, but I'm going to our award predictions, like Casey said, and our playoff predictions. And yeah, we've got some hot takes for you guys from both sides. Let's get into it.
Let's get it started. Here we go. We got it all pulled up for you guys on Google Slides. Just made these and we're ready to go. The two faces. Well, some would say Aaron Judge definitely this year after the amazing year he had. And Mookie Betts had another solid year for the Dodgers.
Another great year for Mookie, yeah.
Yeah. So let's get right into it.
We're
Oh,
gonna start off
yeah.
with award predictions, and here are mine. AL MVP, Aaron Judge. It's a two-headed race with Shohei Ohtani, and I don't want to get Shohei Ohtani fatigue like we do with LeBron in the league. Like, oh, he's good. He's gonna do this every year, so it's not as special. No, what Shohei Ohtani is doing is ridiculous. He had an MVP, he had an elite All-Star caliber hitting year, as well as a Cy Young caliber pitching year. Like, you got to let that sink in. Like, this dude is unbelievable. But at the same time, we're witnessing history with what Aaron Judge is doing at the offensive side of the plate. What Aaron Judge is doing at the offensive side of the plate is just so far and above what anybody else did this year. While playing like Gold Glove defense as well, playing center field at 6'7". I think I give him the MVP. So we're doing this as if we were the voters. And yeah, I mean, 62 home runs, breaks the American League record. Doesn't steroid or not, that is the American League record. And seventh most all time, including steroid era. So yes, I give it to Aaron Judge, but Shohei Ohtani very close second. NL MVP Paul Goldschmidt, I think, is kind of a lock at this point. No one really comes that close, I guess, when it comes to kind of year yet. I'd say probably one of the closest is teammate Nolan Arenado. You could say, yeah, I don't really know. I think Paul Goldschmidt's kind of the lock there. National League Rookie of the Year, I'm gonna go Michael Harris second. Also playing elite defense in center field, got called up in May. Immediate impact. He's OPS is above 800. He's hitting around 300. He's hitting for power. He's hitting for average, like I said. Yeah, he's elite, both sides of the ball, and the Braves have him locked up for many more years to come, as well as another young phenom, Spencer Strider, who I have as the runner-up. Good pitcher. And then AL Rookie of the Year, we have Julio. One of the best prospects of last year. Got called up to begin the year. Had a bit of a slow start and then just really turned it on. Was really good. Pretty much stole 30 bases and hit 30 home runs. So almost 30-30 club. AL Cy Young, Dylan Cease. It was him or Verlander for me. I think Dylan Cease just has the strikeout numbers. He has more innings. And yeah, he's Verlander, I get, has the better like peripheral numbers, but if you dive into the numbers, I think Dylan Cease kind of blows him away. And then Sandy Alcantara led the league in innings by far. I think he had 6 complete games, which is just crazy. He's just a workhorse. He always just has more innings in him, and he was just elite for the Marlins. Manager of the year, I have Buck Showalter for the Mets. Brought the Mets back to the playoffs, got him over 100 wins, and yeah, he did a great job in his first year as the manager. And then Terry Francona. Guardians were not supposed to be anything special this year, and they go ahead and win the division, win over 90 games, and he did a really good job with that Guardians team this year.
Yeah. AL MVP, I also have Aaron Judge. Similar reasons to Oliver. A record-breaking year, an amazing year for Aaron Judge. And he obviously had a great, I think it was 2017, 18, kind of when he was a rookie, second-year player. and he kind of fell off the last few years. And some people are starting to write Aaron Judge off. And then 2022 comes and he just had a monster season. So happy for Aaron. Happy for him now. Most home runs ever in the American League. So good for him, as Oliver said. And yeah, 62. And we'll see how his postseason goes. NL MVP's got to be Paul Goldschmidt. That's a lock. He had an amazing season, cooled down a little bit at the end. And age is like fine wine. He's been doing it since he was on the D-backs at a young age, still doing it in St. Louis.
Mhm.
National League Rookie of the Year. Oliver talked about it. I'm going to take Spencer Strider, the pitcher from Atlanta. Really solid year in his first year, 2.67 ERA. Uh, you know, 11th in strikeouts, 11-5 record. Just a really solid rookie season for a pitcher there. Ali Rushman is my AL Rookie of the Year. Got called up in I think May as well. As you were talking about with your pick for AL Rookie of the Year, but I think Adley Rutschman got called up in May, played in about 113 games, had a solid batting average of 254. Hit 13 bombs. I think he's definitely the future of this Orioles team. Was the best player on the Orioles team this year, and an Orioles team that shocked a lot of people. Oliver once said that if they don't finish last place in the AL East, he'll give Conrad over $100. So Conrad's due for some money.
And we gotta stop bringing that up, bro.
Yeah. So Orioles surprised a lot of people this year. AL Cy Young, speaking of aging like fine wine, Justin Verlander, what a season he had for the Houston Astros. And he is ready for a postseason stretch. But yeah, Verlander continues to go. I mean, when will this guy stop being good in the major leagues, Oliver? He's unreal.
Yeah. I agree. I don't really know. I mean, at this point, he
Yeah.
had a major injury. I think he had Tommy John, right? And he came back and was just like even better. Like I don't really get it.
Yeah, he's insane. He's gonna be 40 this winter, and he's still at a 1.75 ERA this year. So great season for him. Speaking of really good ERAs, Julio Urias led the NL in ERA. I think he's gonna get the NL Cy Young, but it could go to a few people there. Go to Cease, as you said. And an NL Manager of the Year, Oliver Marmol from the Cardinals. I think he's also a first year coach. Yeah, it could also go to Buck Showalter, but one of the Cardinals had a great season as well. And AL Manager of the Year, Scott Servais for the Mariners, bringing the Mariners back to the playoffs and ending their drought. I got him winning AL Manager of the Year. But yeah, there's our awards. Let's move on to our playoff predictions.
Yeah, let's do it. This is the bracket. You got the three division winners are the first three seeds first in the first two of those. So the two division winners with the best record have a bye, and that is the Astros and Yankees in the American League, Dodgers Braves in the National League.
Yeah, and if you compare this to our preseason predictions, we were both pretty hot on the Blue Jays. That one didn't. They made the playoffs, but they didn't get the
Yeah,
bye.
and they were still the best wild card team, but the Yankees were just so good for so long that they still won the division pretty easily.
Yeah,
And
and then
then
new this year is it's a 3-game wild card rather than just one, which I think is good.
yeah, and shout out Seattle, man. Hadn't been in playoffs since 2001, where they have the MLB record 116 games. So they won 116 games, and they'd never won. They had the playoffs since, and they finally made it. So super happy for them. And then Cleveland, like I mentioned earlier, and Phillies also break a 10-year drought, and they get in the playoffs. So cool for some teams that haven't been in there for a while. I like this playoff prediction. Playoff picture. It's pretty unique. All right, so I like Cleveland against Tampa. I like Cleveland's pitching, especially in this 3-game set. So all these games will be at Progressive Field in Cleveland. Obviously gives the higher seed an advantage. So that Shane Bieber, Tristan McKenzie 1-2 punch is going to be really nice for these Guardians. And then, yeah, I think I just don't really believe in Tampa's offense to get past that. I mean, Tampa doesn't have a very inspiring offense, and with Cleveland pitching, I like Cleveland in that matchup. And Seattle, I just feel some magic in the air. I think they beat Toronto, who I originally had winning the World Series in my preseason predictions, but yeah, that's preseason. And yeah, I like Mariners travel up to Toronto and take this series 2-1. I think I just feel something magical about Seattle in this series. And then Cardinals, I think, is just a much better team than Phillies. Phillies have kind of stumbled their way into the playoffs, being pretty awful recently. And the Cardinals are a damn good offensive team. And then, excuse me, I like the Padres beating the Mets because for some weird reason, Blake Snell and Yu Darvish have been like who will be probably 2 and 3 starters against the Mets. Um, have like historically just punished the Mets and have been really good against the Mets. And I think DeGrom has kind of struggled recently. Same with Scherzer. They weren't good in that Atlanta series to decide the division. So I think the Padres go into Citi Field and upset the Mets.
Yeah, I like that. Um, into mine, I also have Cleveland winning, and I really like what you said about the pitchers. I think in these playoffs, pitching starts to become so much more of a factor. I mean, starting pitchers will even go in as relievers, which we don't see in the regular season. We saw this in 2014 with Madison Bumgarner. Pitching becomes the most important part of the MLB team by far when the playoffs hit. And I think Cleveland's going to utilize this. I think this will go three, but I think Cleveland ultimately wins. And they do have a better offense. Ahmad Rosario, Jose Ramirez, great player. So I think Cleveland definitely wins this series. Then we're going to move on to Seattle, and I also like Seattle to beat Toronto. This one will go three as well, I think. I think Seattle, I love what Oliver said. There's magic in there. They're like that team of destiny right now. Ty France, great season, batted 276, solid offense, and then a good pitcher there. Logan Gilbert, Robbie Ray, and of course Luis Castillo, who they traded for at the deadline. Moving on to the NL, I like the Phillies to lose in 2 games to St. Louis. I really like the St. Louis team. They're coming on hot. Um, I know Goldschmidt petered out a little bit with his stats, but they have a really stacked team. Nolan Arenado and a very experienced veteran pitching staff that is really important when the playoffs come around. And then San Diego, New York, which I think is probably the best matchup of all the wild card weekend matchups. And I like the Mets to sadly lose. This was kind of their year that it was looking really good for them. I mean, but I like San Diego in this matchup. I think in the two out of 3 games, San Diego has the pitching hand, has offensive hand, and they're going to beat Mets in New York as Oliver predicted. So we have the same predictions for all 4 of these.
Yeah, we do actually. But things will differ. As I have the Yankees being the Guardians. Yankees, I think, were 5-1 in the season series. I took that into account too, how they played against each other this year. Yankees just seem to have owned the Guardians this year. Again, Yankees have a lead offense led by Aaron Judge, and I think hopefully they'll get Matt Carpenter, who's having a comeback year before breaking his hand or something like that, getting injured. And I think he'll be back by the time, and hopefully he can regain his stride that he was in. So yeah, the Yankees in that. This is now a 5-game series, by the way, instead of 3. And then Houston's just really good against Seattle, no matter what. Even though Seattle was a lot better this year, Houston always kind of just owns them. I think Houston is easily the best team in the American League. So I have them going to the ALCS. And then in the NL, Dodgers, I think Dodgers do not struggle with San Diego whatsoever. They haven't lost a series to them in like over a year. And yeah, so I think they cruise by. And then Atlanta, St. Louis. I have Atlanta. I think Atlanta's just a stronger team all around. I do like St. Louis, but I just don't think they have the pitching to deal with Atlanta's insanely stacked lineup.
Yeah. All right, mine, Cleveland, New York. This is a great series. New York fans are going to be ecstatic to host them as the 2 seed in the AL. The Yankees can't lose this, man. I mean, that would be so bad on their part. We've seen it time after time. In the recent years, the Yankees choking before, the World Series. We saw it in the AL, in the ALCS a few years ago. We saw it when they lost the wild card to the Minnesota Twins. But yeah, the Yankees. They play the Cleveland Guardians. I like what they did bringing Andrew Benintendi in at the deadline. Obviously, we've talked about Judge and their pitching staff. I like them to win this in 4 games. They'll lose one in Cleveland, I think. Seattle and Houston, another really solid series here. But I like what you said. And we see with these matchups that tend to be in the divisional that kind of the better team or the hotter team tends to win. We saw it with the Giants and the Dodgers last year. That
Yeah.
was a division matchup that happened in the playoffs. Unfortunately, the Dodgers got the Giants' hand there, even though the Giants are kind of coming in as that team that was the underdog there after
Yeah.
having a really good season, but it kind of felt like the Dodgers were going to figure out a way because they play them. They know how to beat them. I think the Houston Astros are going to totally do it. What's right, and maybe even go for a sweep here. Hot take. I think this Astros team is very much legit. In the NL, St. Louis, Atlanta, I think is a series that's going to go to 5 games. This one's going to be a really solid series.
Yeah.
Obviously, Freddie Freeman being gone from Atlanta wasn't too much of an issue there. They just snuck it out and beat the Mets in that NL East race. But I don't think Atlanta's going to win this World Series again. I got St. Louis winning, got them edging them out. More experience there, older people, more vets. And then we got another little divisional matchup here between San Diego Padres and the LA Dodgers. And I like the Dodgers to end the Padres run here. Freddie Freeman, who was the former Brave, is back on the Dodgers, batting 317 this year. Sorry, 325.
Hmm.
Unreal season from Freddie Freeman. Mookie Betts as well. And then this pitching staff, Kershaw, Julio Urias, Walker Buehler, they got them all. LA Dodgers are going to make it to the NLCS this year before we'll see if they choke or not again.
Yeah. Freddie was
Yeah.
um like quietly unreal this year.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree. He's not getting talked enough.
Agreed. And then winning, the Astros have like in the past half decade have owned the Yankees. I think that continues. Astros are the best team in the AL to me, and so I think they take care of the Yankees in I'll say 6 games, and then they play the best team in the NL, which to me by far is the Los Angeles Dodgers. We get another Dodgers Braves matchup 3 years in a row, and I think the Dodgers take it. Although I think this one goes to 7 games.
Yeah,
And yeah, I think this would be a great matchup. I think the Braves start off, hot in this series, maybe take a 2-1 lead, and the Dodgers come and fight back and face the Astros again in the World Series. So we get the Dodgers, we get some familiar matchups here.
definitely. All right, moving on to my predictions right here. ALCS, NLCS predictions here. We got the Yankees and the Astros, and I have the Yankees taking it in 7. This
Ooh.
one would be a series for the ages. We've seen great Astros Yankees matchups in the playoffs in the last 5-10 years, and I think it continues here. Just ultimately pulling it out. This offensive firepower, I think, just edges out Houston's. Great offense they have there. Jordan Alvarez, what a season! But I think the Yankees just get it done there. I think they made more moves at the deadline than the Astros, and that's ultimately going to get them to the World Series. And then my big upset here, I have the St. Louis Cardinals beating the LA Dodgers. A big shock for a lot of people, obviously, but
Yeah.
I don't think this Dodgers team is cut out for the playoffs. I mean, we saw it last year. They lost to the Braves. 2020, COVID year doesn't count. 2019, they lost to the Washington Nationals. Then years before, we saw them lose in the World Series to the Red Sox, to the Astros. We saw them lose to the Cubs in the NLCS. So many chokes in the playoffs under Dave Roberts. We've seen, I think it continues. Just one pitching performance doesn't go their way. I think they lose in 6 to St. Louis. I think the St. Louis team isn't getting the credit they deserve. We've seen so many playoff teams like the St. Louis Cardinals this year, like the Washington Nationals in 2019. I mean, even like the Braves last year, that aren't necessarily the 1 seed, the number 1 overall seed, that make runs in the playoffs and ultimately make it and even win the World Series. I think maybe, I'm not saying they're going to win yet, but the St. Louis Cardinals can make a run this year. I mean, I really like the roster. I like how they're made up of young guys and veterans that are experienced, like Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt. And then they also have some underrated guys like Dylan Carlson. Paul DeJong's been around for a minute, of course. A lot of good guys on the St. Louis team. So I like them beating LA and having a fun little World Series here between New York and St. Louis. But Oliver, let's see who you have winning the World Series.
Yeah. And St. Louis also started pretty slow this year too, kind of like those other teams you mentioned.
Yeah.
I do have the Los Angeles Dodgers winning. I think they're easily the best team they were the best team in baseball this year. They won 111 games, which is just crazy to say. 111 games. They were 111 51, 60 games over 500. One of the best teams we've ever seen ever. So as long as they, assuming everything goes to plan, and they play as well as they should play, they will win the World Series. And I think they defeat the Astros in 6 games. My World Series MVP is Trey Turner.
Yeah, I like that. All right, Cardinals, Yankees. I got the St. Louis Cardinals winning the World Series. Maybe a surprise to some of these people, but I got a big run coming. You know, we got that Dylan Hudson, Miles Mikolas, Adam Wainwright, rotation coming in clutch. But man, I think they have the best player in the MLB this year in the NL. Paul Goldschmidt leads the team in every single stat. And then they have an underrated, just lineup as I already talked about, but it's going to come down to that veteran experience. In St. Louis, Albert Pujols gets himself a ring, which would be pretty cool. But I think Arenado is the best player in this playoffs for the St. Louis Cardinals, and they end up winning in 7. A great series this would be, St. Louis defeating New York. But yeah, I'm excited for these playoffs, Oliver. I think it's one of the best brackets we've seen in a while. We'll go back to the bracket here while we close it out.
Yeah, I agree. I think yeah, like I said earlier, I think it's unique. I like the way it's formatted, the expanded playoffs. Um and yeah, I mean I think we're set up for a great playoffs. I think it's all these teams that just had played 162 games to get here. They all deserve it. There's no fluke teams in the MLB playoffs. So yeah, I'm excited to see what it entails.
Yeah. Another veteran that I totally blanked on that Cardinals team is Yadi Molina. How could I forget?
Right. I think his veteran leadership would definitely play a role.
Yeah. And then they have the young guys like O'Neill, Carlson. Yeah. All right. Thank you for watching this video. MLB predictions. Cannot wait for the MLB playoffs, and we will see you next time.
Yes, sir. Peace out.